Okay, good morning. Man, there seems to be some issues here. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. All right, there it is. I think that's got it fixed. I thought I had this all ready before I hit go live, but evidently I didn't. All right, but anywho, we are here. Good morning, everyone. Told you I'd be back today. Won't be in tomorrow, but I'll be back today. Yes. The wife's going to go pick up the grandson, and they're going to go out and pick up some lunch, and then be back here about the time I end the stream. So then I have lunch with my grandson. But other than that, it's going to be a pretty calm day, at least for now. We'll see how things look. Okay, one of the first things I want to start off with here. Uh, I, I I'm going to start with this article. We've seen this is something we see in almost every article when it comes to Texas and the redistricting issue. Okay, and it's this one line that or something similar to this. All right. Texas Democrats on Monday prevented their state's House of Representatives from moving forward, at least for now, with the redrawn congressional map sought by President Donald Trump to shore up the Republicans' 2026 midterm prospects as its political standing falters. I spent quite a few hours trying to find where this idea came from, where this backing, where this support for this idea that Trump has ordered this, that Trump ordered this to be done. I could not find any articles. Articles stating it as a fact, accusations by Democrats stating it as a fact. But where was something definitive proof that Trump called for this to happen in Texas? The only thing I can find was that letter that I showed you yesterday from the Department of Justice. Okay, that's the only thing I could find coming out of this administration, and this came from the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. Yes, the Department of Justice and the Civil Rights Division, therefore, work for President Trump. They're part of the executive branch. And yes, I even called into question about the two dates that the header on the letter was dated 7 July, and at the bottom of the letter they wanted a response from Abbott and Paxton by the 7th of July. I called that out because that makes no sense to me. One or the other has got to be, one of the two dates has got to be wrong. Or I need an explanation as to why those dates are the way they are. You know, I mean, did they have a phone call in advance that this letter was coming? Therefore, that's why the dates got put there. I don't know. I don't know. And all kinds of theories could pop up, and conspiracy theories could pop up and say, well, it's because of this. And yeah, they knew it was coming. And this letter from the Department of Justice was just to cover Trump's ass. And yada, 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 so on and so forth. I don't know. I do not know. I do not understand the reasoning why that such a mistake would be made in the letter. And that letter that I showed you yesterday was the only image of that letter that I could find online. And I looked last night and I looked again this morning. So, I mean, okay, take it as you will. So I decided to go to Microsoft Copilot. It's a AI program, as we all know. Okay. And I just happened to have that open to me. And I put in a question, you know, did Donald Trump order the redistricting, or did Donald Trump ask for the redistricting of, here we go, did President Trump or the DOJ order the Texas redistricting? That's what I typed in. This is what came back. The Texas redistricting effort was not officially ordered by either President Trump or the Department of Justice. That, okay. And the Department of Justice letter did not order it. It simply outlined saying that they believe that those 4 districts were unconstitutional. 3 of them for the basis for which they were drawn, and the 4th one as a result, because the 4th one resulted as a result of the way the other 3 were drawn. All right, it was an effect of the other 3. But both played influential roles into shaping the outcome. Trump's influence. Trump's political operatives reportedly, okay, reportedly. We all know what that means. Somebody made the claim. Somebody claimed that Trump's political operatives reportedly Texas made the, again, that's an accusation, that's not a fact. It could be a bald-faced lie. It could be the truth. But it's not a fact. There's no proof that that happened. All right. And remember the Democrats, they're real big on demanding proof when it comes to things regarding Biden. All right. So reportedly pressured Texas lawmakers to redraw congressional maps to favor Republicans. Well, whenever a state is redrawing congressional maps, the party what be in power is going to draw the maps to be most advantageous to them. All right, that's a political given. That's how states, that vote 50-50 end up with supermajority Democrat legislators, even though the population itself votes 50-50 or 54-46, but 15 of the 17 congressional districts turn out to lean Democrat. All right. The proposed changes would create 5 new GOP-leaning districts, potentially helping Republicans maintain control of the House in the upcoming midterms. The DOJ's role. The DOJ sent a letter, okay, and we've seen the letter, to Texas officials in early July, warning that 4 existing districts were unconstitutional due to racial gerrymandering. These included coalition districts where Black and Hispanic voters formed a majority. And remember, Hispanic voters voted in great numbers for Trump in the last election. And a greater number of Black male voters voted for Trump. Black female voters went, I think it went 99% or 98% for Biden and Kamala. So, yeah, I forgot to shut off the alarm, so let me snooze it so that it doesn't bother us or I don't hear it throughout the wife's out front with the dog and the alarm system was going off. The DOJ threatened legal action if the maps weren't revised to comply with the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment. Texas response. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton pushed back, claiming the maps were drawn race blind and only aimed to maximize Republican advantage. Despite this, the state proceeded with redrawing the maps, citing both legal and political motivations. So while neither Trump nor the DOJ issued a formal directive, and this here bothers me. It should have been, they're reported, because it's reported that Trump took actions or Trump's people took actions. All right, heavily influenced redistricting process. Want to dive into how these new maps might want to affect upcoming elections? No, I don't. All right. So even an AI program here, which links to newspaper reports and such, it's accusations, but every newspaper article reports it as a fact. And we know how it goes when the newspapers and the newscasters report things as fact. People don't look into it. The average person doesn't look into it because they don't have time. Democrats won't look into it because it confirms their bias. And a lot of Republicans won't look into it because it's like, well, everybody's reporting it this way, and I don't have time to go doing the research. Okay, let me fully admit, 3 years ago, before I got hurt and put on, forced into my current lack of working, I wouldn't have had time to research all this that I'm doing now. Okay. But now I've got time to sit down and do some research. And because I've got that time, I've used it. Now, I'm not turning into a 24/7 researcher because I've got other things I want to do with my life, like spend time with my wife, spend time with my grandchildren. I do a lot more cooking, a lot more and deeper cooking and such. And I'm starting to rely a little bit on AI to do some research. Because rather than me spending hours and hours and hours and hours, or after I've spent hours trying to do my own research and not finding what I want to find. That's why I turned to Microsoft Copilot this morning. So there's that. And coming from Microsoft, you know if there's going to be a political bent to it, it's going to bend to the left. And this word here, reportedly, that's a strong indication that they've got no proof, or else they would not have used the word reportedly. All they're basing this on is accusations. Accusations and suppositions. But the news articles are still going to say that Trump is the one doing this because he needs this. But the funny thing is all this might turn out moot next year, a year from now. Now, granted, a year from now is too late to affect the midterms. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of this article. The Supreme Court will rehear arguments about Louisiana congressional map, which could have wider ramifications in other states' maps as mid-decade redistricting is thrust into the spotlight. Now, if Texas is the only state that is doing a mid-decade redistricting, what spotlight are they talking about? Are other states planning on doing mid-decade redistricting? I just happened to think of that question. I wonder. Let me, okay. What states are planning mid-decade redistricting? Okay. Oh. All right. So let me pop over to this again using Microsoft's Copilot. Republican-led states concerning redistricting: Texas, Florida, Missouri, Ohio, Georgia, and Louisiana. California, New York, Illinois, Maryland, and New Jersey, New Hampshire, and Virginia. Oh. Is this something different? New York, Governor Kathy Hochul has vowed to redraw if Texas proceeds, calling it war. Interesting. So yeah, this is so it's not just Texas, but we turn around though, and when you listen to the news reports, it's all about Texas. It's all about those evil Republicans in Texas, the largest Republican state in the union. And I tell you, I'm from Ohio, and Ohio is usually a battleground state. I really wouldn't call Ohio. I mean, yeah, they're saying Republican-led states, so okay. But Ohio flip-flops back and forth. Sort of like Michigan does. Well, Michigan doesn't flip as much though. So this is interesting. So let's throw that into the mix. But again, like I was saying, come back over here. As other states maps redistricting, okay. The High Court on Friday requested from both parties in Louisiana versus Calais a case about whether the state's intentional creation of a second majority minority congressional district violates the 14th or 15th Amendments. The request ahead of a second round of oral arguments tees up a pivotal case in the upcoming term that could see Voting Rights Act further narrowed by the justices and elimination of mandatory minority majority districts. I've always thought that was racist to start with. Let's lump all them blacks into one district. That way they're guaranteed to get their black leader and it'll shut them up because they got their black leader. All that does then is push, the idea that all blacks have got to be, in order to be a black leader, you got to be a Democrat. That's all that does. You know, congressional maps should not be drawn based on race, no more than they would want it drawn based on religion or based on gender. And I really don't even like the fact that they draw them to fulfill a political need to ensure that one party or the other has got a majority of the districts. I'm not. I don't like that at all anyway. But that is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. Hey, morning, Data. I'm sorry, your post just popped up. Interesting. I don't even know how long ago you posted that. The second set of oral arguments over Louisiana's second minority majority district. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments in the case in March. The second set of oral arguments was expected as soon as this fall. The case was brought by a group of non-black voters who argued the congressional map with two black majority districts was unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. The Louisiana legislature adopted the map in 2024 to include a second black majority district after a congressional map with only one was ruled insufficient under the Voting Rights Act. once again, do you see people advocating to set up a district so it's majority white and states where it's majority black? You don't. Let, let's take a city like Atlanta. All right. Atlanta is a largely black city. Do you see them setting up their areas to ensure that they have white? How about Detroit? Do you see them setting up their representatives for the city council to ensure that they have white representation on the city council? How about Chicago? These cities get praised for their nearly solid all black leadership. It's progressive because look, everybody, it's all, there's not a single white person on the boards. Not a single white person sits in the government. Is it just the two of us there, Dana? Well, like I said, I'd still do this if nobody showed up. I just wouldn't have any chat to read. Yeah, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. Why do we set up, why would we want to set up districts to ensure that a person is elected based upon their skin color? That's racist as all get out, in my opinion. Is the Department of Justice going to sit down, go to those cities and say, you don't have enough white representation sitting on your boards, sitting on your city council? Are they going to do that? No. And honestly, I haven't looked. I don't know what the makeup is. I just remember, I believe it was Chicago's mayor got in a heap lot of trouble here not too long ago. Got some lawsuits threatened against him. I need to look into that and see if he's still getting those. Because he made a big deal about how he only hires black people to work in his administration. And somebody took notice of that and said, no, wait a second. If that was all white people doing, if that's a white mayor bragging about how he only hired white people, then there would be a problem. So why is there a problem when it's him sitting there saying he's only going to hire black people? A federal district court panel sided with the group of non-black voters. A ruling was appealed to the Supreme Court. Okay. The High Court agreed to hear the case November of 2024. Was scheduled to make a decision by the end of the June. On the final release dates for decisions on 24-25 term, the Supreme Court punted, making a ruling, announced it would rehear the case next term with Justice Clarence dissenting. During the first oral arguments in March, the conservative majority on the court questioned whether the use of race in congressional districting had gone too far. The question presented to the high court was whether the low court erred by finding race predominated in enacting the challenging congressional map. Isn't saying that race is one consideration another way of saying race predominated? And how do we square that? The 14th Amendment's promise that race should play no role. And that's exactly right. Race should play no role when setting up districts. But we all know it does. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 has been used in all suits that have led to the creation of more minority-majority districts, including the second black majority district at the current case before the Supreme Court. The creation of black majority districts under the Voting Rights Act aims to prevent the dilution of voting power minorities and allow them to elect their own representatives. Why? Why? Let's take Tim Scott. He's a black Republican. Is he? I mean, are you trying to tell me that a black man or woman cannot get elected to office unless it's only blacks voting for them, or they're in a district that's majority black? That's the only way a black person can get elected to office? Are you telling me that in a Democrat stronghold, Democrats are only going to vote for, white Democrats are only going to vote for white Democrats? They're not going to vote for black Democrats? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because if that's what you're saying, then why would males ever vote for a female? Why would females ever vote for a male? This is the stupidity of saying that in order for somebody to have representation, the representation begins with their skin color. And this is the fault with DEI. This is the fault with so many things. Diversity begins with the brain, with the thoughts within the brain. You grab me 100 white people, and depending on what part of the country you grab them from, you're more likely than not to get a majority voting either Republican or Democrat. BlackRock is getting involved in crypto. Oh, Lord have mercy. That company seems to be corrupt as hell. They power mongering. No, maybe at one time maybe at one time we needed to have such, but it's when you set up districts like this, what you're basically doing is guaranteeing a Democrat. You're not guaranteeing a black leader. What you're guaranteeing is a Democrat leader. Again, 92, let's see, what was it? 92% of black men vote Democrats and 98% of black women vote Democrats in the last election. I Okay, let's see. Okay. 83% of black voters supported Kamala, 15% of Trump. 71% voted for Harris, 24% for Trump. 71% of black men voted for Harris, 24% voted for Trump. 90% voted for black women, 90% voted for Harris, 7% voted for Trump. Okay. So I'm not going to break it down by state. I'm sort of liking this being able to use this Microsoft Copilot to grab quick answers like this sometimes. But the one bad thing I see when it comes to this though is that people get lazy and not and use that instead of doing their own research for something on the fly. Like I just used it to get the percentages, okay. But if you're doing deep research into something, I don't like the idea of using AI to do it. Litigation against state congressional maps citing the Voting Rights Act was brought in several southern states, including Louisiana, Alabama, and Florida, during the redistricting cycle following the 2020 census, because Democratic Party's dominance with black voters, creation of minority majority districts tends to lead to Democratic held seats. It doesn't tend to it, it almost guarantees it. It all but guarantees a Democrat. So let's see here. Let's see here. In 2023, the Supreme Court ruled for Alabama to create a second black majority district, declining to narrow Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act to exclude redistricting. The 5-4 decision saw Chief Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh join the three liberals in the majority. Thomas, in the dissent, argued Section 2 does not require the state of Alabama to intentionally redraw its longstanding congressional district so that black voters can control a number of seats, roughly proportional to the black share of the state's population, adding, if it did, the Constitution would not permit it. I do not, you know, the liberals, I can understand. To the liberal mindset, race and gender is everything. Right, in general, race and gender is everything. To me, as a conservative, as a constitutionalist, race and gender count for nothing. It's what is good for America, for the country that matters. And I've yet to be able to be convinced that by guaranteeing that certain people get elected to office, that is good for America. Because all that does is put people into the mind of lockstep. That whatever distinction they have, my skin is this color, I've got this between my legs, or I like to sleep with these type of people. Whatever distinction you're making, and then the politicians will hone in on that. Look, you with that skin color, those people don't care about you. I care about you because I've got that same skin color. You can trust me because I'm going to look out for you. You can't trust them to look out for you because they don't care about your skin color. And you see, and when they say they don't care about your skin color, that's the truth. Because I don't care about your skin color. I'm more concerned about what's good for you and everyone at the same time. Nobody should be getting special privileges based upon their skin color, who they want to sleep with, or what they have dangling between their legs. We're all Americans. We all bleed red blood. And what's good for the majority of the people is usually good for everybody. It's good to have food prices down. It's good to have gasoline prices down. It's good to have food available in all neighborhoods. It's good to have crime rates low. It's good to have a sense of neighborhood, a sense of community. These are all good things. It's good to have our borders protected. It's good when people work for a living. They have jobs they can go to. It's better if they have jobs that they like. It's good for people to have a sense of accomplishment by striving to better themselves and then bettering themselves. That's what's good for people, regardless of your skin color, regardless of your man or woman. Now, I know women that are perfectly happy being, what makes them feel good, what makes them feel accomplished is being a housewife, raising a family, keeping a home, while their husband is being able to go out and earn enough money to support the family in a home, food on the table, bills paid, and the extras in life that makes life comfortable. I know people like that. I also know, well, it's like my own household right now. My wife works full time, I work part time. I do 90% of the cooking for the house. She does 99% of the yard work because she likes doing yard work and she's got all of her flower beds and everything else outside. Our house is slightly flipped from what other houses are. And for the most part, we're happy. So what makes me happy doesn't necessarily make other people happy, doesn't fit other people, but we've got the freedom to do this. And this is what makes the United States of America great. Is people have the freedom. And like you've got the freedom to be a bum on the street if that's what you want to be. You don't want to work, you don't want to get an education, you don't want to be a responsible person, and you just want to live on the street. Well, that's and you end up living on the street. That's the consequences of your own actions. I was reading an article the other day about two families. Well, not two. Well, it was two individuals. They weren't family. It wasn't families. It's just two individuals. The one individual, they both earned approximately the same, $100,000 a year. One of them had the best. I mean, they had the fancy car, the nice clothes, the haircuts, gym memberships, all this other stuff. But they were constantly, their bank accounts were constantly, you know, near empty. The other guy, again, earned right about the same amount and had been for about the same time, length of time, a few years. He lived right, he Walmart, went to Walmart or Target, whatever, to buy his clothes. Didn't eat out in restaurants, done the majority of his own cooking. And he was getting ready to pay cash for his first home because he'd been saving his money. The other guy, he was going to be living in apartments and being broke for the rest of his life by the looks of it. The way he was talking. He was always looking for that next pay raise to help keep him out of collections. So, you got the consequences of your own actions there. I I've done stupid things in my life, consequences of my own actions. Like when I was in the Air Force. I did a lot of jobs by myself that were two-man jobs, but I was good sized, I was strong, I was tall, and I didn't need no help to do this stuff. I could do it by myself. Then later in life, I ended up I found out I had 14 hernias. Consequences of my own actions. Stuff I should have asked for help for and waited until I got the help. I was impatient and did it by myself because I could. I'm paying for that now for the rest of my life. Oh, good. But anyway, so let me see what tabs I can close here. So Louisiana here, let's back to this thing here. Louisiana Supreme Court's going to look back at this whole idea. I hope that Kavanaugh that the ruling goes the other direction, that race cannot be a basis for drawing a congressional district. Hey, morning, Neil. How's it going? Oh yeah, I was too hard headed for years. Just ask my wife. My wife will tell you I was thick skulled, and she got no bones about reminding me about it sometimes. So I'm hoping Roberts and Kavanaugh see the light and get rid of this race-based gerrymandering of districts and ruling it unconstitutional. I'd like to see our Congress get it right and make it law. That way, the Supreme Court doesn't have to get involved. Because as always, I hate it when the courts get in there and start making law. I absolutely hate it. As much as the liberals love using the courts, they start screaming and belly aching when the courts rule against them. Well, I hate having the courts having to make rulings like this. Our elected representatives should be smart enough to do it the right way. But our elected representatives are more interested in, and I'm going to blame Republicans. There's some Republicans out there the same way. They're more interested in dividing the people to gain support. These other people, it's like the Democrats, them Republicans don't care about you because you're black. Those Republicans don't care about you because you're Hispanic. Them Republicans are nothing but Nazis and racists. They're homophobes. They don't care about you if you're not a straight white Christian male, as nonsensical as that is. even though I will admit, I do give a side eye to Muslims, but I've expressed my opinion why I give my reasons for that. Okay. This is something that just popped up this morning. I did not see this until actually a little while ago. Democratic Representative Della Ramirez. She's she went and opened her mouth, and if y'all speak Spanish, great. I don't speak Spanish, but I'm trusting what she is saying here has been properly translated into English.
Español porque yo soy guatemalteca con mucho orgullo, primero que soy americana. Quiero terminar diciendo unas palabras en español porque yo soy guatemalteca con mucho orgullo, primero que soy americana.
Supposedly what she stood there saying, I am a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. She sits in the House of Representatives. In saying that, if that is actually what she said, she should be thrown out of the House of Representatives. Now, there are notes here. The representative said, whatever. This translates to, I'm a Guatemalan with great pride. First of all, I'm an American. If that's what she said, then I'm not going to be so angry about it. The translation is correct. Okay, what does this translation say? Don't know. It's not opening. Okay, over here, translate Mom Studio. I want to finish with a few words in Spanish because I'm a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. %99 accuracy. So if she's actually saying she's a proud Guatemalan before she is an American, if that's what she actually said, I want her out of Congress. She should not be sitting in Congress whatsoever. Just getting started on deliveries. Oh, okay, Neil. Any member of any elected official who says they are proud to be any nationality other than American, or they're looking out for another nation's interest before they're looking out for America's interests, I want them out of office. Y'all know who I'm talking about there. A certain Somalian that had the president of Somalia come and personally thank her for putting Somalia's interests ahead of America's interests. So depending on which translation you're going to go with here, We got I'm looking at a certain somebody, Neil, that's for certain. But anytime you're more interested in putting another country interest, or you're more proud of being another nationality than American, it's time for you to go. And why did I just close that tab? I didn't want that tab closed. So anyway, let me see if I can find that tab again somewhere else. Because I may still have it open somewhere else, but it doesn't look like I do. Anyway, a piece of older news. Donald Trump has brought back, and this is some, I don't know if any of y'all are old enough to remember this. The president's fitness. Let me find this story again. All right, here we go. Trump revised the presidential fitness test, a rite of passage for school children for decades. Now, Obama killed it. President Donald Trump on Thursday reestablished the presidential fitness test for American children, a fixture of public schools for decades, which gauged young people's health and athleticism with a 1-mile run, sit-ups, and stretching exercises. This is a wonderful tradition, and we're bringing it back, said the fitness test that began in 1966 but was phased out during the Obama administration. And an executive order he signed on Thursday also reintegrates the National Sports Council that the president stocked with former and current athletes and other figures from the sports world. Several prominent athletes joined Trump and top administration officials, including allies such as friend and pro golfer Bryson DeChambeau and others who attracted controversy, such as former New York Giants linebacker Lawrence Taylor, who is a registered sex offender. Trump, why did you have to bring Lawrence Taylor in? Why? You're talking about trying to get America's youth back into physical fitness, and you bring in Lawrence Taylor, a registered sex offender. Now, why? This is the story here with Lawrence Taylor. I did a little research. Lawrence Taylor was accused of having sex with an underage girl in Rockland County Hotel. The girl was being sex trafficked. Oh, wow. So he had sex with a sex trafficked girl who was 16 years old. So do a little bit more research. Well, where did it go? Okay. In 2020 and 2011, he pled guilty to misdemeanor charges of sexual misconduct and patronizing a prostitute as part of a plea deal. The original charges handed down by a grand jury included one count of third-degree rape, which would have brought up to 4 years in prison if he was convicted. So here we go. This is what happened from what I was able to find. Taylor wanted to get laid. He wanted a hooker sent up. So he made a phone call and asked for a hooker. They brought this 16-year-old girl up. Sent to Taylor's room. The little girl later testified she went into the room tear-stained and bruised from her trafficker's brutality. Taylor, who is 6'3" and 240, okay, who cares how tall he was, how big he was, had said that he believed the girl was 19. He may have been told she was 19. She may have told him she was 19. And I'm drawing this from not my personal experience, but the personal experience of a guy I worked with who ended up getting 7 years at Leavenworth for having sex with an underage girl that he picked up at the NCO club. She was also 16 years old in the NCO club drinking at the bar. He picked her up, went back to the dorms. Daddy found out about it. Daddy was a major. He's either a major or a light colonel. And poor boy ended up getting 7 years at Leavenworth and a dishonorable discharge. After that, women started complaining because after that, guys started demanding to see ID cards from any woman that they saw at the NCO club that wasn't in uniform and didn't look to be old enough to be their mother. The NCO club, of course, nobody got in trouble at the NCO club for a 16-year-old sitting at the bar drinking. I thought this was as wrong. I really thought that was wholly wrong. Hey, Spittle, good morning. Glad to see you. So is it possible that he was told that she was 19 years old and he believed he was having sex with the 19-year-old instead of a 16-year-old? Yeah. I'm, the wife and I guess stages of the women on pictures of the women we see all the time. I'm usually wrong. She's a little bit better at guessing the ages. She's a little bit better at guessing, the ages of these young girls who put on the makeup and look a hell of a lot older than what they actually are. I get fooled by the makeup. That's why I'm glad I'm married. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Uh, I guess I got lucky. I never dated a girl who was too young. Oh, Spittle, why'd you delete your message? But anyway, so the trafficker ended up arrested in jail, and Tyler, he's on the list now for the rest of his life. He gets in trouble. He's in trouble now because he moved and didn't notify the sex registry board that he moved. Didn't notify him in time or whatever, like he was supposed to. So, Trump, why did you pick this man to be on your board. I don't, you know, as much as you and I may both say that, you know, he's not a diaper sniffing child abuser. He's still on the registered, he's still a registered sex offender for having sex with a 16-year-old. You and I may believe that he called up for a prostitute, which isn't exactly the smartest thing in the world to do. And thought he was getting a 19-year-old which again, thoughts is one thing, reality is another. You never should have put him on this board. You never should have put him on the National Sports Council. That's just a bad look all the way around. Okay, so let's see, what else do I have here? Dumb. Okay, what? Ooh. Oh, yeah, Pete Hegseth. Pete. Military guys love you. The media hates you. And having your brother working as a go-between between you and Department and DHS. Okay. And once again, I'm going to use this as a representation of how the media and Democrats and liberals lie. Or they spin things in the worst possible way when it's somebody's involved they don't like. All right. So let's see, get up here. And I don't know, again, I don't know how much this has hit the media. Excuse me, but I found it this morning. Uniquely secret plans for a domestic forever war. Oh my God, this is horrible. And of course, they got old Christy Nome there, A leaked Department of Homeland Security memo reveals a plan to dramatically increase the use of the U.S. Armed Forces on American streets and domestic law enforcement roles, especially immigration, for years. The memo provides a glimpse into the thinking of top officials as they seek to involve the Defense Department more deeply in these domestic operations. And it has unnerved experts who believe it portends a frightening escalation. This is from the New Republic. The memo is alarming because it speaks to the intent of using the military within the United States at a level not seen since Japanese internment. Carrie Lee, a senior fellow at the German Marshall Fund. The military is the most powerful coercive tool in our country has. We don't want the military doing law enforcement. It absolutely undermines the rule of law. The New Republic reports that the administration seems to be supercharging immigration invasion agitprop. to manufacture a sense of a national trauma similar to the one that rose after the September 11th attacks. I'm surprised they didn't say January 6th. That led to another type of war on terror, hyper-militarization at home as well as abroad. The administration seems determined to outdo that, this time against a new internal enemy. Just a little aside here. You notice how they leave out that it's the Biden and the Myropolis's fault that we have all these illegals in the country right now. They never bring up the fact that all these illegals are in the country that Trump is going after, that ICE is going after. They're here because of the Biden administration. And this illegal's been here for 20 years. Well, if it hadn't been for the Biden administration allowing floodgates to be open and illegals to come flooding in, that 20-year illegal may have been ignored for another 20 years. They may have died and been, buried. And nobody would have gave a damn that they were here illegally. But because the floodgates were open and millions of illegals were allowed to come into the country, now every illegal has got a target on them. I don't care if they've been here 10 days, 10 years, or 50 years. I don't care if that illegal got here as a 2-month-old baby or a 20-year-old adult or any age in between and betweens, because Biden allowed the floodgates to open and millions of illegals to enter our country. Every illegal has got that target. But that is totally ignored by the media. That is never brought up. That is never a point of contention. That's never an aspect to the story. The only story the media and the Democrats are pushing is that, well, look how mean he's being. He's deporting these people. He's grabbing them up from court hearings. He's grabbing them off from work. He took this woman off the streets. If the Biden administration had not done what they did, what's happening today would not be happening. It's that plain. It's that simple. Stores will allow a certain amount of petty theft. Okay? When I was a kid, I worked for a place that sold cheese and meats. You could buy cheese by the slice, you could buy cheese by the block, or you could buy cheese by the wheel. And they didn't mind us going in there as an employee and grabbing a few slices of Holda cheese or Swiss cheese and some trail bologna or bung bologna or summer sausage. And having that for a quick lunch. They didn't mind that at all. What they did mind was the guy that they caught going home with 5 pounds of cheese in his bag. Now that bothered them. If you ate a half a pound of cheese and a half a pound of bologna for your lunch, they didn't care about that. That didn't bother them. But the guy that took 5 pounds of cheese home with him, that bothered him. Because how many times did he take that 5 pounds of cheese home with him? A few illegals coming across the border, that didn't bother most Americans. But when a few, 10, 20 here and there made it across, but when it's thousands a day, that got a lot of people's interest up. So it's, this is the new internal enemy. When you have millions of people who've crossed your border illegally, that is an internal enemy. So back to the story here. Joseph Nunn, counsel for the Liberty and National Security Program at the Brennan Center, told Sargent normalizing routine military support to law enforcement could create a kind of domestic forever war, but one that is uniquely dangerous. So we see how this article goes. All right. This article spends a lot of time talking about the memo. But as I'm scrolling through here, you don't see the memo. There's no link to the memo. The Daily Beast, reporting on the memo, called it a secret plans for years of troops on U.S. streets. Where's the memo? They're telling you what they say the memo says and what their experts say the memo says, but the memo's not there for you to read. So we come over here to Mediaite. A leaked memo from Homeland Security shows the department anticipates the use of military personnel in its ongoing mass deportation campaign. The memo, written by DHS senior advisor Phil Hegseth, was obtained by the New Republic, which published it on Saturday. Hegseth is the younger brother of Security and Defense Pete Hegseth, who oversees domestic deployment of U.S. soldiers. Oh. So the New Republic published it on Saturday. Okay, great. Let's go down through the article. I will give Mediaite credit. They did do the memo with a link. But how many people actually click on that link? They're going to come down here through, okay. In June, the President Donald Trump nationalized 5,000 National Guard members and deployed them to LA. The President sent 700 Marines to the city, stating the deployment was necessary to quell violent insurrectionist mobs. Yeah, remember, these were people attacking the federal buildings, and the LA police were doing nothing to stop them. LA police, the California State Police, were doing nothing. The sheriff's department were doing they tried, but they're doing, they didn't have, there's not a whole lot they could do without more people. But the DHS memo, which emerged from a June 21st meeting of Homeland Security and defense officials, include the Hegseth, suggests that the soldiers will be deployed on U.S. soil for years to come. The memo discusses how the departments can better plan for national security and illegal immigration. It contains 3 action items, one of which involves utilizing the Pentagon's nationwide operational planning capabilities. Under a section called Talking Points, the memo says there's room for improvement when it comes to the deployment of troops domestically, which it says could happen for years to come. So let's take a look at the actual memo. All right. And they did not actually print the memo itself. Oops, did I go too far? Here it is. I did. Here is the New Republic, and what they say is them printing the memo. All right. The following is the text. It's not the actual memo, it's the text of the Homeland Security memo obtained by the New Republic with logistical and biographical information omitted. So this is just the text of the memo. Okay, the staff, the attendees, Pete Hegseth, Dan Kane, General Gregory Goulet, Lieutenant General Chris Lviv, military drafter Pete Hegseth. The meeting is a principal level discussion to share needs, priorities, and expectations to enhance operational coordination between DHS and DoD in defense of the homeland. Now, I have never liked the term homeland. Okay, I've never liked that term. And I've tried to think of other terms you could use without, just saying in defense of the country. Because when you say homeland, then that brings, it's got a sort of a Vaterland feel to it. The fatherland. The German, the Nazi era. There's always been that little twinge in the back of my mind whenever I hear somebody refer to us as the homeland. This is our home country, but that's always just sort of, couldn't somebody had come up with a better term to use? And I'm looking at you here, George Bush, George W. Didn't y'all have anybody that could have come up with a better term other than homeland? Department of Homeland Defense, that it just never sat quite right with me. But then that's just me, okay? That's just me. So, 100% success will be achieved by fostering new ideas for how the two departments can better plan for national security and illegal immigration. Positive outcomes and or action items include U.S. military leadership need to feel for the first time the urgency of the Homeland Defense mission. They need to understand the threat, what is at stake, and the political importance the administration has placed on this issue. If the Joint Chiefs of Staff are not concerned about our border security, then I want the Joint Chiefs of Staff replaced. I want the every single swinging dick of them replaced. If the Joint Chiefs of Staff are not sitting there with their first primary concern is the security of our borders. A verbal agreement to find places where DoD can detail personnel within ICE and CBP, that's the Border Patrol, and vice versa to increase information sharing and specifically support nationwide operational plannings. A clear understanding of each department's capabilities, limitations, and shared objectives. Not objections, objectives. all right, can detail personnel. All right. There's laws as to where people can be detailed. Now, if you want to put somebody, and this again, this is myself and I don't see a problem with having somebody from military intelligence or military planning working with ICE and CBP to help organize their effectiveness, the use of their people, how to garner, and then back and forth, learn from each other. I am not saying putting military troops, and neither is this saying putting military troops acting as ICE agents or acting as Border Patrol. Once again, I will say this. I would love to see a 100-yard stretch of the border being patrolled by the military. Apache helicopters, A-10s. I would have no problem with that. Coast Guard boats patrolling the Rio Grande on the American side. Would not bother me one bit. I would like to see it. That would definitely help cut down on the illegal border crossings. A clear understanding of each department's capabilities, limitations, and shared objective. Limitations. Because each department is limited by law as to what they can do. It's that plain and simple. Talking points, thank yous. The mere fact that this meeting is happening with these participants illustrates how urgent and cooperative the Homeland Mission has become. This is priority of the POTUS. Yes, it is urgent because we've got millions of illegals inside of our borders. Thanking the DOD for support. Cooperation between the 10th Mountain and Border Patrol is a perfect example. I don't know what the 10th Mountain did, but okay. I'm certain it was within the limitations as of the law. A rise in the attacks on the DHS officers throughout by 700%. Why the civilian police forces have not been doing their job and arresting those who are attacking the DHS agents is beyond me. And if the local forces won't do it, then by God, the FBI should be out there doing it. We got Central and South American cartels and gangs trafficking drugs, humans, and terror into American citizens at will. Transnational crime organizations now have been designated as foreign terrorist organizations. Good. This puts this threat in the same plane as having Al Qaeda or ISIS cells fighters operating within the United States. Everyone is aware of the joint work in LA. It hasn't been perfect, but we're working through the best practices together. Okay, if DOD and DHS can be closely aligned on Homeland Mission, meetings like this and set expectations, increase coordination from top down at all levels. What DHS, CBP, and ICE are up against, and what will help, and exactly what help they need from the DOD, where the DOD can best support with personnel and planning. Gotta be careful where you're doing with the personnel. Gotta be careful. And this here's the important thing, and what limitations we all have. Not only limitations in manning and equipment and that stuff, but what are the legal limitations in what they have and what they're allowed to do? The legal and constitutional limitations. Again, as long as everybody's following the law and the Constitution, I don't care. I'm happy. I want to see, I, I've been a lot happier to see, know that the border to remain secure. The border was secure the day before Biden became president, and it became secure within a month or so after Trump became president again. All of our issues, all of this stuff is a direct result of the Biden and Mayorkas actions, plans, and policies for those 4 years. Even if the media won't admit it, they know it. And this is a problem. Secretary of Defense Hegseth wants this meeting to be the message on the uniform side DOD, emphasizing the urgency of the Homeland mission. He wants to hear from DHS firsthand. He wants to hear exactly what ICE and CBP want assistance from. After hearing the needs, he wants the DOD to respond and set expectations for limitations that DOD could face. There are limitations, constitutional limitations, legal limitations to what DOD does. And CBP and ICE need to know that there are limitations. And the American people need to know that the DOD knows, understands, and are abiding by those limitations. And not let the media and not let the Democrats set the painting, to paint that picture. Pete Hegseth should have been holding, when this whole thing come up, Pete Hegseth should have had a press conference and came out and said, listen, this is being massively misportrayed on what we're talking about. Read this yourself. And right here, we're saying that there are limitations to what we can do. We've got legal limitations. We've got constitutional limitations. And we will abide by them. We are going to provide the help and the assistance in the areas that we can. And when it comes to protecting federal buildings, yes, the military can go in to protect federal buildings. That's a given. That's law. Every president has done it. You should ask how DOD can ensure that legal guidance or directives for assistance are properly communicated throughout DOD's chain of command so commanders on the ground, like in LA, have a clear understanding what activities they're supposed to be supporting. You should ask how the DoD is planning to effectively support DHS during the next instance of LA type operations. And we know there's going to be more LA operations where people attack federal buildings. We know that's going to happen. When you have mayors sitting there saying that we are not going to allow this or we're not going to allow that. We had a mayor here in Florida. He stood up one day and he said, we are not going to work with ICE down here. We are not going to do this. We're not, da. The next day he held, or a couple of days later, he's holding another press conference saying that he did sign that agreement with ICE because it was against the law for him not to. It was against the law in the state of Florida for him to refuse to help ICE. That is a state law that mayors are required to. And he sat there eating a bunch of humble pie. Now he stood there balls out, fully brave the first time. I am not going to do this. And we need to have our government, we need to have our military understanding that there are limitations to what they can and can't do. We also need to understand, though, that when one administration fully ignores laws and the next administration has to come in and clean up after them, the cleanup's not going to look real pretty. And it's going to be hard. Because for 4 years or 8 years, people got a way of doing things they shouldn't have been allowed to do because the administration turned their back. If parents out there, you all of a sudden start letting your teenage son or daughter, stay out until 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, go out partying and everything else. And then all of a sudden you try to put a curfew on them of 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock on school nights and 10 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays. You know how hard that is when you go to put restrictions on a kid that they didn't have before. Now think of trying to do that to an entire population. Because you let them get away with coming across the border illegally. You let them get away with doing that. And then all of a sudden, the next administration comes in and says, no, we're going back to enforcing the laws. It's not pretty. You leaving?
I'm leaving.
All right. I love you, babe.
Love you too.
Tell Matthew Grandpa said hi.
Well, do you want us to get you lunch and bring it back here to the house and eat?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because that's what I was planning on doing.
Yeah. But when you see him, tell him I said hi.
Okay. All right.
And then I'll say hi again when you get here with him.
Okay. So what time are you?
I'll be done here in about 6 minutes.
Okay. Well, all right. Love you.
All right. Love you too, babe.
Then I'll touch you. Then we'll just go from there to get some lunch. And then
All
go
right.
home.
All right.
And I'll get you whatever.
Love ya.
Love you.
Bye. My grandson loves their grilled cheese sandwiches, which I can make here at home for him a hell of a lot cheaper, but no, he wants Whataburger's grilled cheese sandwich, and grandma's going to spoil him. So anyway, guys, all right, now I'm done ranting. Thinking about my grandson coming over, LOMT coming over to visit. Y'all have a good day now. Thanks for coming out. Spittle, Nil, Data, anybody else who's lurking or going to show up and listen later, thanks a bunch. I appreciate y'all listening to me rant. I'll be back on Thursday. Y'all have a good one now. Enjoy. As always, be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. And have a good one now. Bye, y'all.